Hello from my home in Cambodia. I want to tell you another story of an encounter with God. It was 1971. My husband and children and I had returned to Canada after spending 4 years in Thailand because at that time Cambodia was close to us. And we enjoyed our time in Canada, of course, as we always do. We loved it when the children could come back from school, and it was always a nice time to be back in Canada again. But really, our hearts always were in Cambodia. And so one day, as we were just home, my husband and I, he got a phone call. And as I listened to his side of the conversation, it sounded like there was something very exciting going on. And then I found out that the call was from the mission directors, and they were telling us we could go back to Cambodia. There had been a coup, and now the government was friendly to the West again, and it would be possible for us to return. Oh, were we ever excited. We were so happy we were going to get to go back to Cambodia. Wow. Our kids came home from school and had their lunch, and we said, guess what, kids? We can get back to Cambodia. And they, of course, caught on to our excitement, and they were excited too. And so we thought, well, we're going to get ready, and we started to try to remember the language because we had thought we would never get back to Cambodia again, so we'd kind of not kept up the language, and we were trying to remember it again, and we're so excited. Well, after a few days, the excitement kind of wore down, and we started to think, oh, just a minute. There's a war going on in Cambodia. If we go back to Cambodia now, chances are that we'll be killed in the war. Wow, that was a scary thought. And as the days went by, we became convinced we would be killed. In fact, we started thinking that God was telling us, you go, I want you to go, but I need you to know you're going to be killed. So we were in such a dilemma in our hearts. What are you going to do? You're going to say, well, I'm not going to obey and go back because I'm scared I might be killed. And then you can't serve God somewhere else because he's saying, I will take you to Cambodia, but if you don't come with me to Cambodia, then forget about serving God. So we carried that in our hearts and minds, and it was hard to make the decision to say, in obedience, we will go. Well, at that time, the Alliance had a big conference going on in Houston, Texas. And so we drove down to the States, and during the conference, habitually every year they have a very special meeting for the missionaries. All the Alliance missionaries that were on furlough were all up on the platform, about 40 of us from very many different countries. And the missionaries who were home after spending time overseas were all being honored, and wouldn't you know it, the theme for that particular meeting was about all the Alliance missionaries that had been killed when they were serving God overseas. Starting with the first 6 that went out way back in the 1800s, and they went to Congo and they all died. And then there were, during the Second World War, there were some that died in internment camps. And then later on there was a couple in Thailand. And I'm sitting there at that meeting thinking, yep, the next time they have a meeting like this, and they will say, and then there was Norman Marie Enns. They died during the war in Cambodia. I had become convinced that's probably what would happen. So what are we going to do? Well, that night, my husband and I cried, and we settled it with the Lord. We said, we would rather obey you than live. We will go. Then our hearts became so happy. We were so lighthearted. My one sister-in-law said, if you think you're going to die, you don't have to be so happy about it. But God blessed us, made us happy, made us stop worrying about it. Well, obviously I didn't die. I'm here. We didn't die in the war. But you know what died? The devil's ability to frighten us. We were no longer afraid. If we would have the impression, oh, maybe we shouldn't do that, maybe we'll be hurt, maybe we'll be killed, we already settled that. We already said we were willing. And so we had that encounter with God that was really a deliverance from fear. There was lots of danger during those war years. Really, there was a lot of danger. We were often in danger. Our children were in danger. We weren't so aware of it when it was happening, but I realized we were often in danger. but the Lord kept us from being afraid. And so we had freedom and we had peace and we had joy in our hearts.